Hey everyone! Today I wanted to give you some tips on the most common questions I get about watercolor painting. These are pretty simple and often overlooked, but sometimes the simplest things can be of great help to improving your artwork. Are you someone who experienced paper flaking, paper warping, or super dull colors when painting on the paper? As I quickly go over the supplies, that'll lead me to number one, which is paper matters. Your whole watercolor painting experience will solely be based on the paper that you're using. Since watercolor is water-based, of course, 100% cotton paper with a higher GSM, which stands for the weight of the paper, and that'll determine how thick or thin it is definitely highly recommended. The fibers of the cotton paper will better absorb the water, giving you more options to layer your paint. You won't have to worry if you're using too much water or not, and your colors and pigments may even appear brighter on this paper. Now, I'm all about budget-friendly art supplies, and I truly believe you don't need all the art supplies in the world or expensive art supplies to create, but one of the greatest investments you can make for your watercolor experience is to purchase some good paper. And here are some of my favorites that I can recommend. First things first, let's talk about the inspiration for today's demo. As I return back to explore New York City, I can sit all day and people watch, and I've been really drawn to the people, their outfits, and I was really drawn to this girl I saw and thought we can paint her together. And specifically for the reference for today's example, I love the combination of the pink hair to the pink purse, and personally, it really appealed to me. So whatever you're choosing to paint, it's always really nice to be excited about it. One of the most common questions I get on my channel is how does the pencil not smudge when you begin painting on the paper? And the simple secret to that is to use a 2H graphite pencil, and the H stands for a hard lead. And I love this method because as soon as you put water and tone your paper, there is little to none or minimal smudging when it comes to painting. When you use the softer lead, your pencil is more likely to smudge when you apply watercolor on top. The harder and stiffer the graphite, the lighter your lines will appear, and that works great when it comes to painting with watercolor on top. And that's right, no fixative sprays or sealer layers are required in between. So I've laid down my sketch, and I've toned my sketch with a yellow ochreish brownish tone. And before I begin laying in color, I like to let this layer completely dry. And as it's drying, I'm going to tell you guys about today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. I'm sure you've heard of Squarespace before, and I've been using Squarespace for many years now, and I still get questions on how I made my website. Well, Squarespace is the one. In their all-in-one, super user-friendly platform, you can build a website with few clicks of buttons. And with their award-winning templates, you can honestly do it in minutes. I have my website set up so that all my links are there, my portfolio, along with my shop. As someone who runs everything on her own, Squarespace makes it that much easier. My favorite has to be how mobile-friendly the templates are, so whether your website is viewed on a phone, tablet, or computer, everything is structured beautifully. If you'd like to start growing your online presence, try it out by going to squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/JessCarp for 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. Now that the tonal layer of the painting is dry, that leads me to tip number 3, that is to work in layers from light to dark. Now there are many different watercolor techniques like wet on wet, but regardless, watercolor works beautifully when you work in layers. Something I've been enjoying and practicing lately is limiting my color palette, sometimes 2 to 3 pigments, and laying in larger shapes first, and as those layers dry, I add transparent layers on top of one another to build up those shadows. Be patient when you're painting with watercolor. It truly forces you to slow down and really plan out your process. And speaking of process, a slowed down real-time video is up on my Patreon of this exact demo. You'll also have access to the library of exclusive videos, monthly worksheets, live classes, and I also have exclusive Happy Meal rewards if you wish. Here are a few responses from my patrons about this tutorial. As I'm laying in the shapes of the painting, I'm also thinking about how I can consistently create a value over my painting. I want to prevent having any streaks, and I do that by keeping that specific layer wet for as long as possible, and until I've laid down that whole shape, I keep my brush moving the paint around, and once I'm happy with it, I then let it dry to move on to the next layer. Then, with a few touches that come intuitively, I hold it up in front of me and then I'm able to decide if it's finished or not. Well, that's all for today's quick tip video. This was a really fun little character sketch and I hope you enjoyed. Stay creative, keep smiling, and I'll see you in the next one.